Coming behind you, 1 second.
Have a seat for a moment. Take two. Won't be the first time. Right. You want another box? He can't leave all these.
Now I'm coming.
All right.
Nice to see you, folks.
Please make sure your cell phones are off. If you use them on a break.
It's ready to proceed. You can all be seated, please. State is ready to proceed.
Take ready, Your Honor.
Next is ready to proceed. Defendant is present. Ah, a little bit of arranging. Okay. Everybody else in the morning.
Okay.
Any matters we need to bring up before we bring the jury back in?
Judge, just as far as the defense having a look at each photo before it's shown to a witness, we're probably just going to have one of us will just step up with the prosecutor before they show it to the witness and take a look at it with the prosecutor. That way it won't be flashed to whomever it's not supposed to be.
And just maybe a quote, I guess.
Sure.
All the exhibits. Yeah.
Apparently there's been a couple of requests from the media so that they can participate in this trial. They want to come and look at all the exhibits and picture and everything else. Get them on the run, folks. I'm not going to interrupt my trial. I'm not going to delay my court personnel's time to accommodate your needs, wants, and desires. If you need to move your camera around, do it. If we can find the time and we can accommodate you, we will. Otherwise, you're like any other spectator in this courtroom. All right. I have my chair. Bring him in. Are we moving as quickly as you had hoped and planned so far today based on our schedule?
Somewhat. We had a little issue with,
The coordination of
getting things
right.
marked earlier, but we have some time-seeing people coming up. I have someone from out of town on the other one, and then we have a couple more people after that, so.
Let's try and run till 5:30 or so.
Okay.
I don't plan on keeping these guys here until 7:30 and 8 like we did last week with jury selection. You guys might be quite forced to get it all to the newspaper before 5. That's not going to happen either.
All rise to the jury, please. All present together, please, Judge.
All right, see you, please. State, should I call your next witness?
Your Honor, this time the state calls Yvonne Garcia.
You'll stand in front of the clerk and raise your right hand. He'll swear you in. You can have a seat at the microphone alongside the judge.
Thank you.
Do you swear or affirm the evidence you're about to give you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Have a seat, ma'am. There's a microphone there, so we can all hear you. Mr. Raho, when you're ready, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Could you please introduce yourself to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury?
Officer Yvonne Garcia
How are you employed?
with the Miami-Dade Police Department.
What's your in what capacity are you employed at the police department?
I work in the Forensics Bureau as a detective for major crime scenes.
Okay. And what are your responsibilities as a crime scene technician?
We respond to calls, photograph, document, and collect evidence.
How long have you been working as a crime scene technician?
Almost 9 years.
I want to draw your attention to November 27th of 2007. Do you remember that date?
Yes, I do.
First of all, did you ever respond to a residence located at 18050 Old Cutler Road?
No.
So you never visited the scene of the actual homicide?
No, I did not.
Did you have an occasion to respond to 927 Sunset Drive?
Yes, I did.
What was your purpose in going there?
I was advised to go to that house and collect some clothing.
Did you know who the clothing belongs to?
The wife of the victim.
Now, what happened when you arrived there?
I knocked on the door. I was let in by the house.
Please continue.
She led me to the bathroom where the clothing was. I photographed, collected it, and left.
Showing the defense authority evidence. I'm showing you State's Exhibits 21 and 22. Do you recognize those?
Yes,
How do you recognize them?
because that's the clothing I collected.
And do those photographs fairly and accurately depict the clothing as you found it that day?
Well, it was on the floor, wadded up. I opened it up to photograph it, but yes.
You were published in?
Yes.
How did you go about collecting this clothing?
In what manner?
How did you physically collect it?
Put gloves on, put it in a brown paper bag, and transport it back to the office.
Was Jackie Garcia present at any point in time while you were there?
Not that I'm aware of. No.
It's going to be the same objection, no, there's no dispute that those clothes were collected from Jackie
objection to these, speaking objection to future reference.
Sustained. Next question.
Was that the extent of your involvement in this case?
That was it.
Thank you. I have nothing further at this time.
No questions? All right, you will be excused. Officer State, our next witness.
Thank you.
This time the state called Wayne Watkins.
Sir, step forward with your right hand in front of the witness. Swear you in.
Do you swear or affirm the evidence you're about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. All right, have a seat over here, sir. There's a microphone so you can do it so we can hear you. And when you're ready, Mr. Brown, you may proceed.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Could you please introduce yourself to the jury?
My name is Kenyon Wayne Watkins.
How are you employed?
I'm employed with the Miami-Dade Police Department.
In what capacity?
I'm assigned to the Crime Scene Investigations Bureau.
How long have you been with the Crime Scene Investigations Bureau?
I've been with the Bureau 18 years. I've been on this will be my 24th year on the department.
And what are your responsibilities on the Crime Scene Bureau?
In the Crime Scene Bureau, we assist our detective bureaus in the processing of their crime scenes. We take their photographs to document their scenes. We collect their physical evidence that we submit to the lab for analysis. We do sketches, we lift fingerprints, we collect DNA, things of that nature.
I want to draw your attention specifically to November 26th of 2007. Do you recall that date?
Yes.
Did you have an opportunity to respond to a residence located at 18050 Old Cutler Road?
Yes.
And what was your purpose in responding there?
There had been a burglary to a residence, an occupied burglary, where the victim homeowner was shot.
Were you the only crime scene technician that responded?
No, I had two others that responded to assist.
And were you the lead crime scene technician?
I was, yes.
And what is the significance of that, if you could explain this to the jury?
Lead crime scene detective basically oversees the procedures that are done on the crime scene and assigns tasks to some of the other crime scene detectives, like one person will take the photographs, one person's going to collect DNA, another person does a sketch. Kind of spreads out the work so that everything's done.
Showing the defense states 3K for identification. Mr. Watkins, I'm showing you State's Exhibit 3K for identification. Do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
How do you recognize it?
This is the residence at 18050 Old Cutler Road.
And does that photograph fairly and accurately depict the residence that you responded to that day?
Yes, it does.
They were published? Or, excuse me, this time the state moves 3K into evidence.
No objection.
Have you admitted?
This is a good mark identification, 3K, now this comes to exhibit number 32.
Will you publish?
You may.
Officer Watkins, it's an aerial shot of the house that you responded to that day, is that correct?
That is, yes.
What did you see when you first arrived on the scene?
On the scene itself was secured with crime scene tape out in front of the residence along Old Cutler Road.
What did the outside of the scene appear to be before you actually went through the gates?
As far as just the scene was secure, no one was inside the premises at that point, other than the detectives.
Do you recall whether the gates were open or closed when you arrived?
I don't recall.
I want to show you what's already in evidence, State's Exhibit 23. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
And does that photograph fairly and accurately depict the scene as you responded to it that day?
Yes.
If I could ask you to step down for a second, Mr. Watkins. Taking a look at State's Exhibit 23 in evidence, there appears to be two gates, one here on the right side and one here on the left side of the house. Is that correct? That is. Could you please point out to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury on State's Exhibit 32 where those gates are found in that photograph? The gates are here and here. When you responded to the scene, you could step down. Did you have an opportunity to investigate the area around those gates to see if there was any evidence of any kind?
Yes, we, first of all, there's a concrete wall that extends across the front of the property on either side of the gate. And there's electric motor boxes that actually actuate and move those gates open and close with a chain. We noticed some shoe wear impressions on top of the motor boxes there on the inside of the wall.
Showing the defense states 2Q, right? Showing you states, 2Q for ID. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
How do you recognize it?
This is the photo taken that day. This is the actual cover over the gate motor, and the electrical box right next to it that supplies electricity to that motor.
And does it fairly and accurately depict what those items look like that day?
Yes.
State moves 2Q into evidence.
State's Exhibit marked by identification 2Q, now becomes State's Exhibit number 33.
Taking a look at State's Exhibit 33, is that the electrical box and cover from the north gate or from the south gate of the house?
And that would be the south gate.
May we publish?
You may.
Showing the defense states 2P for identification. Showing you states 2P for identification. Do you recognize it?
Yes.
How do you recognize it?
This is the top of that motor cover.
And does this photograph fairly and accurately depict the motor cover?
Yes.
State moves 2P into evidence.
State's Exhibit marked by identification 2P, now becomes State's Exhibit number 34.
If I could have you step down for a moment, Mr. Watkins. Showing the jury State's Exhibit 34, can you point out to them where it appeared to you that there were some shoe wear impressions?
As you can see, the ridges, the lines right in this area here. They're faint, but they're there.
You can have a seat. Showing the defense states 3H right here. Showing you states 3H for identification. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
How do you recognize it?
This is the top of the electrical box right next to that motor cover we just saw.
And does it fairly and accurately depict what that box looked like that day?
Yes.
This time the state moves 3H into evidence.
I think that's State's Exhibit Modified Identification 3H now becomes State Exhibit number 35.
I could have you again step down for a moment. Showing the jury State's Exhibit 35, can you point out areas where it appears to you that there were shoe wear impressions?
There's a lot of shoe wear impressions here, kind of overlapping each other, so, but the majority of the print is here and here in this portion of the picture.
Thank you, Nancy. In addition to photographing the motor box or the motor covering the electrical box, did you also physically impound those items?
We did.
And what was the purpose of doing that?
We had those submitted to our firearms section, ID section. They can do shoe wear impressions. They have all types of models and makes of shoes that they can compare to find out what type of shoes those were.
For the record, State is going to show the defense states 3Q identification. I'm going to show you for a moment. It states 3Q for identification. Do you recognize that?
Yes, this is the motor cover, electric-driven motor cover that I impounded that day.
And how do you recognize it?
My initials, my badge, my initials, the date, case number, and the description of the item are on the cover.
Could you explain for the benefit of the jury what all the different pieces of red tape with all the initials and markings mean on an item like this?
This is our evidence tape. Basically, this is a very thin, tamper-proof tape that we place on all the seals or a bag is closed. Any type of trying to open a container or anything, this tape will rip very easily.
And when you seal a particular item of evidence with the evidence tape, do you initial it and document the case number?
Yes, just like I have with my badge number and initial sheet.
Now suppose that piece of evidence goes somewhere else and someone else has an opportunity to open it and inspect it and then seals it again. Would they have a responsibility to also, on the evidence tape, initial and document that as well?
Correct, and they're, along with the property receipt that goes with this, they also document their name, date, and the time that they took custody and gave up custody of the item on the property receipt.
Does it appear to you, based on the amount of red tape and varying initials all over it, that it has been opened and closed again, other than when you first initially impounded it?
Correct.
At this point, the state moves 3Q into evidence.
This is a modified identification 3Q and now becomes State Exhibit number 36.
Yeah. Mr. Watkins, I want to ask you to go ahead and open up the state's exhibit. Was this the motor cover that was right by the gate next to the concrete wall of the residence?
Yes.
I can assist you. If you can step over where the jury is. If you could point out to them where it appears that there are shoe wear impressions at the top.
You may or may not see because of the light. If the light hits it just right, you'll see the impression of the shoe right in this area.
And again, was this particular piece of evidence sent for further examination by persons other than yourself?
To our lab, yes.
Are you involved with any of that testing?
No, sir.
Duplicate exhibit tag to put on the actual physical piece of that
Yeah, Judge, I will do that.
engine cover. Now, can we do a duplicate evidence tag actually put on the engine cover?
Mr. Watkins, take a look at states 3-0 for identification. Do you recognize that?
Yes, this is the electric box cover that was right next to that cover, the motor cover.
And that's the electrical box that you impounded that day? for
Correct.
Residence?
Yes.
This time the state moves 3-0 into evidence?
This is with modified identification 3-0, now becomes state exhibit number 37. Yeah, there's two parts to it. Yeah.
I'm going to hand you states exhibit 37 in evidence. And ask you to please open it. Could you please point out to the jury in which area of the electrical box there appear to be some shoe wear impressions?
Now, this is the top, and again, the shoe wear impressions are in this area here and some over here.
And again, was this sent off to the lab for further analysis and testing?
It was.
Okay. Mark,
Did you have an opportunity to prepare a crime scene sketch in this case?
I did.
I want to draw your attention to State's Exhibit 5 in evidence. Is this a portion or a close-up of the crime scene sketch that you prepared that day?
It is.
Showing the defense states 2X.
S is the same.
X.
X.
I'm showing you states 2X for identification. Do you recognize that?
Yes, it is.
How do you recognize it?
This is the sketch that I prepared in this case.
At this point, the state moves 2X into evidence.
Do you have to do that?
State's Exhibit modified identification 2X now becomes State's Exhibit number 38.
I can have you step down for a minute. You could show the jurors on the crime scene sketch where the gates are located that have the motors and the electrical boxes.
The gates are here, plus the driveway here and here.
And would that be on the south, or is the bottom direction of this crime scene sketch south and the top is north?
Correct. The pool is on the west side of the house.
And this area right in here, would that be next to the concrete wall where the motor box, motor cover and the electrical box were located?
That's correct.
And those are the items that you just testified about, right?
Correct.
Did you have an opportunity to go around the side of the house back to the patio area at any point in time?
Yes.
Let's talk about that. Showing you State Exhibit 24, do you recognize that?
Yes.
And is that the back patio area of the house that you had an opportunity to go into?
This is on the north end of the pool patio, yes.
What did you see when you began to investigate that area?
The screen doors were open to the pool patio area. As we entered the pool patio area, we saw that the pool patio bathroom door was pried. It was open. There were pry marks on the door frame. There was fresh wood chips on the ground below at the threshold of the door. The sliding glass door to the living room was shattered. The accordion door was slightly open. The storm doors were slightly opened and appeared to be what appeared to be a projectile hole in the aluminum shutter.
Showing the defense 1R. Take a look at 1R for identification. Do you recognize it?
Yes, I do.
How do you recognize it?
This is the north screen patio door.
And does it fairly and accurately depict what that area looked like that day?
Yes, it does.
State moves 1R into evidence.
State's Exhibit modified identification 1R now becomes State's Exhibit number 39.
Hearing published.
You may.
So that's the screen door that leads into the patio area.
That's one of two. There's one just like that on the south side of the pool patio.
And this is the one on the north side.
Correct.
took a look at State's Exhibit 25 in evidence. Do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
Does that photograph depict the damage that you found on the door that leads to the inside of the house from the patio?
Yes, it does.
You mentioned that there appeared to have been some sort of pry marks also on the door frame for that same door. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Showing the defense states 1T for identification. Take a look at states 1T for identification. Do you recognize it?
Yes.
How do you recognize it?
This is the actual door frame to the pool patio bathroom.
And it fairly and accurately depicts the damage to the door.
Yes, it does.
State moves 1T into evidence.
State's Exhibit modified identification 1T now becomes State's Exhibit number 40.
You will publish? In addition to the damage to the door and the door frame, did there appear to be evidence of that damage that you saw on the ground as well?
Yes, there were fresh wood chips on the ground below.
State's showing 1B for identification. Showing you states 1B. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
How do you recognize it?
This is the doorway or the threshold to that same bathroom.
And does it fairly and accurately depict what it looked like that way?
Yes, it does.
State moves 1B into evidence.
State's Exhibit modified identification 1B now becomes State's Exhibit number 41.
Move publish. Did you take any steps to try and preserve the door frame itself for some sort of future analysis?
We actually removed a section of the door frame above and below the pry area. We took the actual pried area out.
Showing the defense states 3P for identification.
P is in Paul.
P is in Paul. Take a look at states 3P for identification. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
How do you recognize it?
This is the same box that the item was put in with the case number and identification.
And are your initials on the evidence tape for that particular piece of evidence?
Actually, Detective Van Loan impounded this one.
Were you
Okay.
present with Detective Van Loan at the moment that he impounded it?
Yes.
This time the state moves 3P into evidence.
Objection, no. All right, no objection. Well, that one might fit back in there. The other one's going, if we have to, that's fine, thank you.
Either way. State's Exhibit modified identification 3P now becomes State's Exhibit number 42.
I could ask you to please go ahead and open up State's Exhibit 42. I can have you step down for a minute and show the State's Exhibit to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury. If you could point out to them where it is that the crime marks or damage to the door frame is visible.
Right in this area, right by the striker, where the strike plate would have been, or where the screws are that hold the strike plate in place.
You may have a seat. I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 26, already in evidence. Do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
And is that a more close-up shot of the damage to the patio door itself?
That's the outside edge of the pool patio door, yes.
You mentioned that as you move further along to the patio, there's an area where there's an accordion shutter and sliding glass doors. Is that correct?
That's correct.
What damage, if any, did you observe in that area?
I mentioned the sliding glass door was shattered. There were cubes, glass cubes on all the floor. The accordion shutter was slightly open, and there was an apparent projectile hole in the aluminum accordion shutter.
Show you State's Exhibit 29 in evidence. Do you recognize that?
I do.
And does that photograph depict the accordion shutter and the sliding glass door?
Yes, we're viewing it from the inside of the house, the living room area.
Inside looking out?
Correct.
Showing the defense states 1Z for identification. Take a look at states 1Z. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
And how do you recognize it?
This is the accordion shutter that covers the sliding glass door in the living room.
And does it fairly and accurately depict what the shutter looked like that day?
Yes.
State moves 1Z as evidence.
No objection.
State's Exhibit marked by identification 1Z now becomes State's Exhibit number 43.
could have you step down for a minute. You could show first for this side of the jury, in State's Exhibit 43, where does it appear that there's damage to the accordion shutter?
And this would be the hole in the accordion shutter here.
Does the hole appear, whatever passed through that hole, does it appear to have gone from the inside of the house out or vice versa?
Out, inside out. This is the outside portion we're looking at, surface we're looking at here, and this is the actual flat covering that the projectile pushed open as it came through.
So the flap is actually still attached to the hole, but it's bent over along the outside?
Correct.
You could show the same, just ladies and gentlemen, on this side of the jury.
The hole is here, and the actual piece of metal that the projectile pushed out as it came through is there, to your left of the hole.
Yes. Showing you State's Exhibit 18 already in evidence. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
Is that another photograph of the same sliding glass door?
Yes, we're just a little closer to the sliding glass door.
You mentioned, Mr. Watkins, that there was some sort of a projectile that was located in that area. Is that correct?
There was a projectile recovered from the pool patio area.
Where exactly was that projectile located in relation to the sliding glass door?
It was just outside to the west of the door.
Bear with me for a moment, Mr. Watkins. There's quite a few photographs here. Did you have an opportunity to impound the actual projectile that you found on the scene that day?
Yes. I labeled it number 3 on the sketch.
You're showing States 3Y for identification defects. Take a look at States 3Y. It's inside an envelope. Do you recognize it?
Yes, I do.
Is that the projectile you impounded that day?
It is.
At this time, the state moves 3Y into evidence.
Will be admitted.
This exhibit modified application 3Y now becomes state's exhibit number 44.
May we show the jury?
Yes.
Stand up and bang if we need to get a better look. Go in the front, either one.
You mentioned earlier that in addition to the screen door that we've already shown the jury that leads into the patio, there's also a screen door on the opposite side of the patio, is that correct?
Correct, on the south side.
Could you please sit down and point out to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury where that is in the patio? That would be here. The north screen door's here, south. So showing the jurors State's Exhibit 24 in evidence. This would be the screen door that you just indicated is on the north side of the residence. Is that correct? Correct. Now, when you went out to the screen door that is on the south side of the residence, correct, did you notice anything unusual in that area?
Yes, we noticed some shoe wear and prints in the sand and the dirt there just outside the door.
You can go ahead and sit down, Mr. Watkins. What do you normally do when you locate evidence of footprints or shoe wear impressions on the scene?
We place a marker on it to give it an indicator. In this case, we marked it with the letters A and B. We also do photographs of the shoe print before we actually cast. We actually pour a casting over this impression in the sand to cast the actual shape.
And what is the purpose of creating a physical cast of the shoe footprint?
That's something we can actually take back to the lab where they can actually use to compare to other items, shoes.
Did you do that in this case?
Yes, we did.
How many castings did you actually create?
2.
Showing the defense to the record, this is 3R identification. Mr. Watkins, take a look at State's 3R. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
How do you recognize it?
These are the actual boxes that I placed the shoe casting in that day.
This time the State moves 3R into evidence.
State's exhibit modified application 3R now becomes state's exhibit number 45.
Mr. Watkins, if I could ask you to go ahead and open up State's Exhibit 45. Okay, starting off with, is that casting A or B?
This one's B.
If you could go ahead and start with casting A. Please bring it down so the ladies and gentlemen of the jury can get a better look at it. Does that casting recreate what the dirt on the ground actually looked like that day when you saw the footprint?
Yes, it flows into all the crevices of the print that's in the dirt.
Could you point out to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury where it appears that there's a footprint impression?
Right in this area.
Those ridges along there?
Right.
And again, is this item sent off to the lab for further analysis and testing?
Yes.
And you're not involved in any of that testing?
It should be marked A. No, I'm not involved in any of the testing.
If you could please show the jury now casting B as you label it. If you could point out to them where it appears that there's some sort of a footprint impression.
Right here.
And was this item forwarded to the lab for further testing as well?
There was.
Thank you, Mr. Watkins. That's it. Were you able to go inside of the residence to try and see if there was any evidence of violence?
Yes, we did.
What did you see when you entered the residence?
We entered through the bathroom. We went down south down the hallway through the kitchen into the living room area. We noticed there was a casing on the sofa in the living room, and there was a spent casing in the hallway just outside of the master bedroom.
Let me stop you there for a moment. I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 31 in evidence. Do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
And is that the hallway that leads to the kitchen and the living room area that you walked through?
Right, this is just south of the bathroom, looking through the kitchen into the living room.
You mentioned also that there was a casing located on one of the sofas in the living room. Is that correct?
Yes, the one along next to the sliding glass door.
I'm showing you State's Exhibit 29. Does that photograph depict the casing that you're referring to?
It does. It's laying right in the crease of the backrest to the seat rest.
Were there any other casings that you located on the scene?
There was one other in the hallway, just outside of the master bedroom door, or the hallway to the master bedroom.
showing State's Exhibit 2W, the defense.
Actually, if you could bring an exhibit with you, please. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Jury, why don't you step back in the jury room for a few minutes while we finish our chat over here.
Ladies and gentlemen, please make sure you have all your personal belongings with you and your notepads if you want, or you can leave them here. Step back through the jury room door. Please be careful. There's a couple steps downhill. If you use the restroom after you're done, leave it open. It's self-locking. If you need to use the restroom after you're done, open it back up because it'll lock. And I can't go in there with you in there. I'm not allowed to go into that door. As far as that goes, that's it.
Oh, yeah, this is State Exhibit 17. That's the one.
This is in actually.
That's it, that's one I'm talking about. These two.
Yeah.
Come back up to the one. Okay, please. To tell you, when this one came out, I didn't realize how quick this one is. When it's blown up, it looks different from what we have. 17 is a blow up that shows the hole from the other side, and it shows a plate of good deal of blood. And then we have 27, the other direction shows less blood. And they have another one coming up that says the picture of case which also depicts blood. So probably can see which one is there. So just this last one. Yeah, it is. It is.
All right, so I've got two exhibits in evidence already, 17 and 27. And the one that you're objecting to is Margaret identification as he's one of the ones where you got an evidence. You got three pictures of the bedroom already.
Judge, I thought the court had ruled on this.
He's one of these.
Yes.
See if they're ready.
Ladies and gentlemen. Everybody ready to come on out? All right, for the jury, please. It's all right. Thank you. It's all right. Take your time. It's all right. Somebody's in the bathroom? Ladies and gentlemen, go ahead, sit down. Pull it tight, pull it tight. Call President Kennedy, the judge.
You mentioned earlier, Mr. Watkins, that in addition to the casing that was found on the sofa, there was another casing that was found on the scene. Is that correct?
Yes.
And where was that casing located?
That was in the hallway just outside of the master bedroom door.
Showing the defense. It's 2T.
We are going to object to this exhibit as well. So there's already there's an exhibit that's the evidence already there.
Any reproach?
Yes, wow.
Showing you State's Exhibit 2T for identification. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
How do you recognize it?
This is the hallway leading into the hallway to the master bedroom door.
And what is depicted in the photograph?
There's a casing along the left baseboard, and there's blood on the top.
At this time, the state moves 2T into evidence.
It'll be admitted.
State's Exhibit marked for identification 2T now becomes State's Exhibit number 46.
If I could have you sit down for a moment so you can show the members of the jury where the evidence is located in the photograph. Let's start on this side.
The casing is right here along the edge of the baseboard on the floor.
And there appears to be another object over here along the other baseboard.
This is the cylinder to the door lock on the door. It's come out of the door itself.
And is that from the door that was found damaged at the scene leading to the bedroom?
Correct.
You could show the ladies and gentlemen over here on this side where the casing was located.
Casing is here. And the cylinder to the door lock is here.
Thank you. Did you have an opportunity to collect the casings that you found on the scene and impound them as evidence?
Yes, I did.
Show me defense case 4A. Take a look at states 4A for identification. Do you recognize that? You can open the exterior envelope. It's for purposes of keeping it there.
Yes, I do.
How do you recognize it?
Again, this is the case number, my initials, badge, date, and the description of the 9mm casings that are inside.
This time the state moves 4A into evidence.
No objection. States exhibit of identification 4A now becomes states exhibit number 47.
If I could ask you, Mr. Watkins, to please open up States Exhibit 47. May I approach and show the seizure? Please press the buttons out. Showing the defense states 2L. Showing you states 2L for identification. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
And what is that a photo of?
That's a close-up of the casing that's on the sofa.
Does that fairly and accurately depict what the casing looked like on the sofa that day?
Yes, it does.
State moves 2L into evidence.
No objection. No objection. States exhibit marked by identification 2L now becomes states exhibit number 48.
May we publish?
You may.
Now, as you further investigated the hallway and you rounded the corner to the master bedroom, did you observe any damage to the master bedroom door or the frame?
Both were damaged. The frame on the left side and the actual door on the lock side of the door, closed with the latches.
Showing the defense states 2U and 2N for ID.
2N? Nancy?
M as in Mary. You should take a look at State's Exhibits 2U and 2M for identification. Do you recognize them?
Yes.
How do you recognize them?
These are the strike plates on the door frame to the master bedroom.
And do they fairly and accurately depict what the strike plates look like that day?
Yes, they do.
Statement was 2U and 2M as in Mary is evidence.
Will be admitted.
State's Exhibit marked by identification 2M now becomes State's Exhibit number 49. State's Exhibit marked by identification 2U now becomes State's Exhibit number 50.
Here we publish. Is this the door that leads into the master bedroom, Mr. Watkins?
It is.
I'm going to ask you to step down for a moment. I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 17. It's already in evidence. Do you recognize this?
Yes.
And what is that photo of?
This is a photo looking from in the master bedroom out towards the doorway into the hallway.
Okay. On that photograph, can you point out to the jurors where you can see the damage that was done to the door? And what sort of damage did you observe?
There's splintering and damage to the actual lock itself. They're bent.
Thank you. You may step down. I want to show you now State's Exhibit 19 in evidence. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
And what is that photograph of?
This is the outside of the master bedroom door near the doorknob and lock.
May I ask you to step down for a moment? Could you please point out to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury where the damage is on the door?
The damage starts here and extends all the way down past the doorknob on the left side of the door where it latches to the door frame.
In addition to the damage on the door, was there any other evidence or anything that you found on the door itself?
Yes, there appeared to be a shoe impression again on the actual exterior surface of the master bedroom door.
And if you could please point out again where that was located?
Right in this area here, near the lock and doorknob.
Please have a seat. Did you make any efforts to try and preserve the door or in some other way have that shoe wear impression analyzed?
We photographed the door in place and then we removed it from its hinges and submitted it to our lab for analysis.
So you physically took the door itself from the house?
Yes.
Sure, the defense states 1-0 for identification. Sure, you states 1-0 for identification. Do you recognize them?
Yes.
How do you recognize them?
This is the view from the inside the house looking south from the math room down the hallway towards the living room and hallway leading into the master bedroom area.
And does it fairly and accurately depict what that area looked like that day?
Yes, it does.
State moves 1-0 into evidence.
Relevant.
Remind me before you go home, I have parking permits for you for tomorrow.
Take a look at states 1-0 for identification. Do you recognize it?
Yes.
And again, how do you recognize it?
This is a view standing in the hallway, basically in the kitchen area looking into the family room. There.
State moves 1-0 into evidence.
Objection will be admitted.
Sex exhibit mark identification 1-0, now become sex exhibit number 51.
You're published.
You may.
Mr. Watkins, did you also have an opportunity to go through the house and examine the various bedrooms located in the residence?
Yes, we did.
The defense states exhibits 2B and 2F for identification.
Objection, cumulative. The jury's already heard testimony about the photos and already seen the photos.
Six and seven. You got 6 and 7 here, James. Good with 6 and 7.
exhibits to go through?
Yeah. The book there? Chief? The book. It's around right there. 6 and 7. Hold them up to him. Objection sustained. We need 2 after F.
I want you to take a look at State's Exhibits 6 and 7, already in evidence. Do you recognize them?
Same objection, Judge. What is her testimony of Garcia?
Overall.
Yes, I do.
Okay. And which bedroom is depicted, if you recall, in State's Exhibits 6 and 7?
That would be the northeast bedroom.
Okay. Did you have an opportunity to investigate that room and go through it to see if there was any evidence of value?
Yes.
What, if anything, did you find?
There were a lot of shoe boxes in the room. There were some on the floor.
As you went through the house and conducted your investigation, did you have an opportunity to take any swabs yourself personally for possible DNA evidence?
I did.
How did you go about doing that?
We have a swab kit. It's a sterilized kit that's supplied to us by the county. It comes with sterile swabs, sterile solution, and a little box that air dries in when it goes, and you seal it, and it goes to our lab, for our biology lab, for analysis.
What areas did you personally take DNA swabs from?
I took 2 DNA swabs, one from the trunk lid on the BMW that's parked on the north side of the pool patio, and from the floor, the hallway floor there, just outside of the master bedroom.
Showing the defense. States Exhibit 3X. Showing the state. State was 3X in evidence.
State's Exhibit modified identification 3X now becomes State's Exhibit number 52. State's Exhibit modified identification 3X now becomes State's Exhibit number 52.
Slowing down 5 minutes.
You can take a look at states 52 now in evidence. Do you recognize it?
Yes, I do.
How do you recognize it?
This is the bag that I impounded the actual boxes, DNA boxes in, with the case number, my initials, badge, and date.
Okay. After you impound the DNA swabs, where do they go after that?
They go to our serology or biology section, to the lab.
If I could have the roll, Judge.
Yes.
Judge, would it be possible to take a very short break? There's a piece of evidence that we're in trouble locating.
Yeah, let's take 10 minutes. I'm sure you're somewhere around after 10 minutes, and we'll continue on.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, close the tab. We'll put the face down on your chair. Make sure you have all your personal possessions with you. We're going to take a 10-minute break, and I need you down the other end of the hallway, okay? Go ahead. No, you want to leave it there? It's supposed to, is it? No, no. Okay.
Judge, can you talk about scheduling for just a minute?
Okay. You can have a seat, folks, or you can walk out and take a break if you want to.
Yeah, it will be about we have another crime scene technician who's pretty brief. We have another witness that will be brief, dealing with recovery of some shoes, who's here from out of town. If I could let the other people go for the day, I think they want you to know that now, instead of just
All right, so we've got Watkins, we've got another 15 minutes with him.
Then we have, we have another witness that wouldn't be all that long too, so we have two that might be a little bit longer.
You want to send them home?
Yeah, well, we have five, they're sitting outside and getting notes about what
Ah.
we do.
Yeah, because we're only got another hour. So yeah, the longer
We're
we
talking about completing them with whatever cross-examination there is.
Yeah.
There's 2 or 3 other people we'd like to get on today. And then the other 2 who are outside, I would just as soon send home if they're not gonna reach them.
do that. Okay. Let's take 5, 10, or what's left of 10.
All right.
I'm going to ask you all before, long before, or at least today if you can, before the ME comes on the witness stand, if we can go over the autopsy photos, those that you intend on using, those that you can agree to make one stack, those that you intend on using you can agree to make a second stack, and we'll discuss the second stack. My concerns is cumulative issues, where suddenly the probative value is outweighed by the prejudice.
The ME would be Monday.
Oh,
Remember, I
we got plenty of time.
Canada scheduling issue, so.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
Watkins. That's your car. Watkins, that's all the car. You have the transfer. careful, we like to combine something else maybe. That happens sometimes.
Yeah, fine, that's it.
You don't need the coverage, do you? I had enough of
You both are.
I had enough of some sugar bomb over there. Just stay away from it.
Thanks, sir.
All right, see you folks. Figure it out. Okay. State ready to proceed? Okay. Defense is ready? Yes. Defendant is present. Okay. We're gonna line up our jury, Ralph.
Okay, Judge, there's one there for you.
I did, thank you.
Okay.
Battery died yet there? It works in this court? It works in this courtroom? But it doesn't work in mine?
present, accounted for, and judged.
All right, proceed please. Eight, you may continue.
Thank you, Your Honor. Showing the defense, see exhibit 2D, that identification. Take a look at states 2Z for identification. You recognize it?
Yes.
How do you recognize it?
This is the exterior, a real close-up view of the exterior surface of the master bedroom door, near the door handle.
Okay, does it fairly and accurately depict what the door looked like that day?
Yes.
This time state moves 2Z into evidence.
And be admitted. State's exhibit marked by identification 2Z now becomes state's exhibit number 53.
You publish?
You may.
Does this photograph also depict the shoe wear impression that you referred to earlier in the other state's exhibit?
Yes, it's a closer view of it, yes.
Taking you back to the sliding glass door and the accordion shutter that you testified about earlier, you mentioned that there was a hole that appeared to have been created by some sort of projectile, is that right?
That's correct.
Was there anything you tried to do to further determine or investigate whether or not in fact the projectile had been what went through that hole?
There appeared to be some gunshot residue, powder residue, or gunshot residue on the interior surface of the accordion shutter around the hole.
Can you explain to the jurors what gunshot residue is?
It's the burnt powder that comes out of the muzzle of the firearm when it's fired.
Okay. Is there anything that you can do to try and collect evidence to determine if there is in fact gunshot residue present?
We swabbed the area around the hole and submitted that to our trace section to have it analyzed.
Show the defense states 3B. Mr. Watkins, take a look at states 3U for identification. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
How do you recognize it?
This is the bag that I placed the swab in and submitted to our lab for analysis.
This time the state moves 3U into evidence.
Will be admitted. This exhibit marked by identification 3U now becomes state's exhibit number 54.
Mr. Watkins, are you personally involved in the testing that goes on later at the lab for things like gunshot residue?
No.
Did you make any effort while you were on the scene to try and determine if you could find any fingerprints of Valerie?
We did latent process the doors, the sliding glass doors, the accordion shutters, things that looked out of place that were conducive for latent processing. We did latent processing.
Could you explain to the members of the jury what latent processing means? What is that?
Latent processing uses a mechanical method. We use a very fine graphite black powder with a very fine brush. We brush it on the area that's we believe it's conducive for prints, and the actual black powder adheres to the ridges of your fingerprint that's left on the surface.
Are there different factors that can affect whether or not a fingerprint is actually going to be on an object that someone touched?
Yes, the surface itself, the person's skin. They may have dry skin that also inhibits the actual print from being left.
If a fingerprint is not present on a particular object, does that mean that a person may not have touched that object at all?
No, just means that even the fingers may have moved or may have left a smudge on the area. So,
were you able to find any latents of value?
no.
One moment, Your Honor. During your investigation, did you notice, or did you identify or flag for yourself any areas where you thought there might be latent evidence, or fingerprint evidence?
Sliding glass doors, again, the accordion shutters in the living room and bedroom, master bedroom. We actually submitted a lot of items to our lab for latent identification, so a lot of the stuff we submitted to the lab.
So the master bedroom door, for example, was part of the purpose of impounding that door and taking it into evidence so that it itself could be sent to the lab for latent processing?
That's correct.
Would that apply also to the section of the door frame from the patio door?
That's correct.
Were there otherwise numerous areas where you made efforts or tried to get fingerprints, but there was just insufficient detail?
Or surface areas. A lot of the areas we DNA swabbed, like the handles on the doors, the drawers, and on the drawers that were pulled out. Yes.
And again, there was nothing of sufficient detail for you to be able to obtain a latent.
Correct.
No further questions this time.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Now, I just want to go through some of the items that you collected. Now, you collected the 2 shoe impressions, is that correct?
The castings, yes.
Okay. And based on those castings, were you able to determine a shoe size?
I don't determine that. It's sent to our lab where our ID section makes that determination.
Okay. And those 2 castings, could you tell if it was the complete shoe print or just a partial print?
Again, I just collected the casting and sent it to our lab for analysis. That would be someone in our lab that would make that determination.
And the print on the bedroom door, the shoe print that was on the bedroom door,
Yes.
did you do any measuring of that shoe print?
We took a scale photograph of it on the door, and we also sent it to our lab to have that done as well.
Okay. But you yourself didn't perform any testing of that?
Just a scale photo.
Okay. From your scale photo, could you tell what shoe size it was?
No.
Now, your main role was to collect the evidence so it could be submitted for testing, is that correct?
Correct.
And when you arrived on the scene was already secured by other officers?
Correct.
And to your knowledge, were any of those shoe impressions made by the officers?
I don't know.
Is it possible that it could have been made by the officers?
Maybe.
Okay. Did you, were the first responding officers still on the scene when you arrived?
I don't know.
Did you speak with those officers or look at those officers' shoes at all?
No.
Now, other than going to the actual Cutler Road address, did you go to any other locations to collect evidence?
No, not that day.
And you never went to 804 Zana Drive to collect evidence?
No, ma'am.
Did you ever go to Mr. Rivera's home to collect any evidence?
No, I did not.
Were you ever asked to go to collect evidence?
No.
And approximately what time did you arrive at the scene to collect the exhibits that were shown to us?
I arrived at 6 a.m.
And what time did you depart?
7:30 p.m.
And to your knowledge, the items that were collected were the only items of physical evidence that were remained on the scene when you arrived.
Correct.
If I can have just one moment, Judge. Nothing further, Judge.
Dave, every direction.
No, we don't.
All right. Officer, Deputy, you may proceed. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Call your next witness.
This time, the state calls
Officer Grossman.
Officer, if you follow me, please. If you'll stand in front of the clerk and raise your right hand, he'll swear you in. You'll have a seat at the chair alongside the judge.
Do you swear or affirm the evidence you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Good
Seat there.
Good afternoon, Judge.
Begin so we can all hear you, and when you're ready, Mr. Rahul, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Could you please introduce yourself to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury?
Yes, my name is Margaret Grossman. I'm a police officer with Miami-Dade Police Department.
How long have you been with the Miami-Dade Police Department?
January 1985.
And in what capacity do you currently work with the department?
I'm assigned to Forensic Services Bureau Crime Scene Unit.
What are some of your responsibilities? Excuse me, it's been a long afternoon. What are some of your responsibilities in the Crime Scene Bureau?
I handle major cases, homicides, sexual batteries, grow houses, robberies, assaults, things of that nature.
And how long have you been with the Crime Scene Bureau?
I'm in my 22nd year.
Did you have an occasion, I want to draw your attention to November 26th of 2007. Do you remember that date?
Yes, sir.
Did you have an opportunity to respond to a residence located at 18050 Old Cutler Road in Miami?
Yes, I did.
And what was your purpose in responding to that?
I responded to assist Detective Watkins, who was the lead on the case.
In terms of being the lead crime scene technician, would he then delegate different responsibilities to the other crime scene technicians that are present?
Yes,
So you were not the lead on this particular case?
that is correct.
What was to be your responsibility that day at the homicide scene?
Detective Watkins asked me to collect some DNA swabs and a few other items of evidence from the scene.
How did you go about determining what would be some of the better areas to try and collect DNA evidence from?
I pretty much acted under his supervision. He, as the lead, he would ask me what he wanted me to do and where he wanted me to do it.
What particular areas did he direct you to swab for DNA?
I responded to different areas of the house. I collected DNA swabs from some of the patio walls, blinds in one of the bedrooms, drawer knobs, a trunk in one of the bedrooms, a window frame, an accordion handle.
Were there certain specific areas where you believed that there might be blood evidence and you also swabbed that for DNA?
Yes.
Show the defense Exhibit 4N for identification as Nancy. Let's take a look at case 4N for identification. Do you recognize it?
Yes, I do.
How do you recognize it?
It has my initials, my badge number, the date, the case number, and what's inside the package.
And what is that package of?
It contains 29 DNA boxes.
Are those all the DNA swabs and boxes that you collected that day at that crime scene?
Yes, sir.
This time the state used 4N as evidence.
This is the mark identification 4N on exhibit number 55.
Hearing no objection, be admitted.
Ms. Grossman, once you package all the DNA swabs and collect that scene, where do they go after that?
They go to our laboratory.
Are you personally involved in any of the specific DNA testing that occurs once you impound the swab, or package the swabs and send them off to the lab?
No, sir, I'm not.
One moment, Judge. No further questions.
All right, President. All right, I'll see you maybe excuse, thank you.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon.
Okay, sorry,
Good
next.
afternoon. Good afternoon.
State calls Detective John Sable.
Sable?
Sable. S-A-B-L.
Raise your right hand. Tell swear you have to see if you're here on prejudice.
Do you swear or affirm the evidence you have not to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Yes.
Good afternoon, Detective.
Good afternoon.
Could you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Detective Jonathan Sable,
How are you employed?
Miami-Dade Police Department,
How long have you been in the department?
approximately 17 years.
What is your current assignment?
I'm currently assigned to the Homicide Bureau.
As a homicide detective?
Yes,
How long have you been with the Homicide Bureau?
approximately 6 years.
What are some of your responsibilities as a homicide detective?
We investigate all natural suicides, unclassified accidents, and homicide deaths that occur in unincorporated Miami-Dade County, as well as certain municipalities that don't have homicide detectives.
I want to draw your attention to November 26th of 2007. Do you recall that date?
Yes,
Were you involved in the investigation of the homicide of the person who later became known to you as Sean Taylor?
yes.
How did you first become involved in that investigation?
I was contacted by Detective Bradgick, who works the midnight shift, and he advised me of the victim in this case, Sean Taylor, who was currently at the hospital, Jackson Memorial Hospital, at which time I responded to that location.
Okay. Were you the lead detective on this particular case?
No,
And what was your purpose in responding to Jackson Hospital?
to interview any family members pertaining to the investigation, and as well as collect a gunshot residue kit from one of the family members that was already there.
Which family member was that, do you recall?
Yes, Jacqueline Garcia.
Now, did you at any point in time in the investigation become involved with the medical examiner and their portion of the investigation into this homicide?
Yes, I did.
How did that come about?
This was the following day. I was requested by Sergeant Andrew and Detective Segovia to assist in the autopsy of Mr. Taylor.
Were you present for the autopsy itself?
Yes, I was.
What is your purpose in being present as a homicide detective at an autopsy?
It's to document the injuries as well as collect any evidence from the body and transport the evidence to the crime lab.
Did you collect any evidence from Sean Taylor's body in this particular case?
The doctor collected the evidence and passed it to me, yes.
And what was that?
It was a projectile.
Sure, the defense states 3Z.
We have no objection,
State moves 3Z into evidence.
The admitted, this is living off identification 3Z, now becomes case exhibit number 56.
Go ahead and open the envelope for a moment and take a look inside. Do you recognize State's Exhibit 56?
Yes, I do.
What is it?
This is the projectile that was recovered from Sean Taylor's body during the autopsy.
At some point in time during the course of your investigation into this homicide, did you become involved in trying to obtain some sort of SunPass records in this case?
Yes.
Could you explain to the jury how that came about?
I was requested by the lead detective, who's Detective Segovia, to attempt to obtain any SunPass records pertaining to this investigation, at which time I contacted a representative from the SunPass and asked them to run any toll violators pertaining to the SunPass at a particular date and time.
Do you recall what the particular dates and times were, the time frame that you presented to them?
Yes, it was the day of the incident, and it was the early morning hours on the day of the incident.
Did you receive, in fact, any records from them?
Yes, we did.
What did you receive?
We received a New Jersey license plate where it violated at a particular time.
Showing the defense since 2S.
No objection to this. No objection.
State moves 2S into evidence.
State's Exhibit marked identification 2S now becomes State's Exhibit number 57.
Taking a look at State's Exhibit 57, do you recognize it?
Yes, I do.
And what is that photograph of?
This is a photograph of a SUV bearing New Jersey license plate.
What is the license plate on the SUV?
VNS57G. This is obtained from the SunPass account.
Do you recall what time this photograph was taken from the SunPass for that vision?
I have to refer back to my report.
Sure, if there's something that can refresh your recollection.
Yes.
Take a look at it. Let me know when you're done. In the meantime, can I publish this to the jury?
You may.
Yes. This the date was November 26, 2007 at 2:32 a.m. from the Everglades East Plaza.
One moment. I have no further questions.
All right, Dick, you may be seated.
Thank you.
Dick, right next to
Ed Carmody.
Am I correct that this should be our last witness for the day?
Yes.
Okay, so last witness for the day, members of my jury. All right, Detective, you
Do you swear or affirm that evidence you're about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Sorry, have a seat. There's a microphone here, and when you're ready.
please state your name for the record?
My name is Ed Carmody.
Let me call your attention to December the 1st of 2007. How were you employed there?
I was employed with the Miami-Dade Police Department as a homicide detective.
And what is your employment now?
I'm retired.
How long did you spend with the Miami-Dade Police Department?
30 years.
And approximately how long in the homicide department?
Approximately 17 years.
I want to call your attention to the very early morning hours of December the 1st of 2007. Were you working then as a Miami-Dade police officer?
Yes, sir, I was.
Detective?
Yes.
Did you have occasion on December the 1st of 2007 around 12:30 in the morning to go to the home of Jason Mitchell in Fort Myers?
Yes, I did.
308 Ichabod Avenue in Lehigh Acres?
That's correct.
Did you recover any evidence from his home?
I did.
And what did you recover?
I recovered 3 items. I recovered a pair of Reebok sneakers, size 13, a black t-shirt, and a pair of black gym shorts.
All right, let me show you what's been marked for identification purpose at this time in State Exhibit number 40. Yes, can you recognize the contents of this plastic bag?
Pardon?
You want gloves?
You want me to open it? Or just look at the bag?
Yeah, the bag should be open. The plastic bag is going to be open to the right. And inside there should be 2 brown papers. So let's focus on the shoes. Do you recognize the contents of the bag?
I do, yes.
Did the bag, before it was open, have your initials on it?
Yes, it does.
And the other bag as well?
Yes, it does.
Are these the shoes and clothing that you recovered from the home of Jason Mitchell in the early morning hours of December the 1st of 1987?
Yes, sir, they are.
The state would move this into evidence as the next state exhibit. I will. This is it. Do you want to just mark this on the back?
All right. This rule to be admitted.
Can I show these to the jury, Judge?
Yes, you may.
Did you get consent to search that residence?
Yes, I did.
That's all the questions I have at this time.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Did you ever collect a pair of Nikes in this case to be compared to evidence at the lab?
I did not.
Did you ever collect any evidence from Mr. Rivera's home?
I did not.
Were you ever asked to do that?
No, sir.
So I guess the next question would follow, but I just want to make sure. So you never asked Mr. Rivera's family for consent to go in and see if there were any shoes in his home that matched evidence?
To the best of my knowledge, I did not personally.
Thank you, sir.
Sir.
Rivera? Okay. Thank you. Excuse, Detective.
Thank you, Judge.
All right, members of my jury, that concludes the presentation of witnesses and evidence today. Tonight when you go home, same rules apply. Don't discuss the case with anyone. Don't let anyone discuss the case in your presence. Don't watch anything, read anything, listen to anything, or look up anything about the case. As you notice, there's a Stevie camera here that's taking pictures all day. It'll be on the news, so don't watch it. It starts to come on, flip the channel. Because you've already taken your oath and we've already discussed the importance of that oath. I'm going to ask you to report tomorrow upstairs to the 7th floor jury pool room at 10 o'clock. I've got about 40 pages on a 30, 29? 39. I got 40 pages on my 29? No. Right. To make, it's 29 for tomorrow?
Yes, Judge, so
Okay.
far.
Then let's try 9:45. Get here 9:45, Ralph will come get you, bring you down, and hopefully we'll start up soon after that. If you were chilly today, it won't be any different tomorrow. Bring something to wear. I can say that to the audience as well. I don't have any control over what you think will be the thermostats. There's just chilly in here. But you're shivering all the time. Wear something comfortable and warm. Anything before we send you home for the evening. All right. Have a great evening. We'll see you in the morning.
All rise. Ladies and gentlemen, if you'll pass your tablets forward, we'll hold them for you overnight. And what we're going to do is meet you briefly outside for 5 minutes and we'll get you underway. Thank you. Okay. Make sure you have all your personal belongings with you. Go ahead and do whatever you need to. If that doesn't work, we'll get you something else. Okay, don't worry about it. We'll take care of it.
We've got 3 witnesses today. Any matters we need to bring up before we adjourn for the evening? No?
I just need to spend a little time before we go trying to let James know some things to set aside.
Okay. And then we can assemble and be ready by 10 in the morning. If there's, to the extent that there is evidence, new pictures and stuff that you're seeking to introduce tomorrow, the defense hasn't seen, we have the time before we bring the jury down to go over that and raise any objections, and we can hopefully move through quicker if need be. If not, we'll see you then. James is gonna have to do calendar with me in the morning downstairs, so I'm sure he's available beyond that, or until after that.
Okay, well, there are some things that I wanted to decide tonight, but there may be other things in the morning, so if necessary, we'll need some time.
Okay.
Unfortunately, because some of these posters are the same size, it's just hard to distinguish them when you're upside down.
Oh, I understand.
So we're gonna sometimes need some
Maybe he doesn't
time.
mind if you turn them right side up in case they can grab a snapshot of it, but that's your preference.
That's another issue. So they sometimes need some time between witnesses to organize them after one person's presented them to someone.
Okay.
If you would, please.
These, James, you're just going to put all that back in
Yeah.
one bag because you got the tag on that, right?
Yeah, I got
Okay. All right, folks, have a great evening. We'll see those of you that want to come back tomorrow. Do you have things you want to leave here tonight?
Yeah.
Okay, that's no problem. No problem with that. The state's got stuff they want to leave, they're welcome to as well.
It'll be locked until we get here.
Oh, that's not gonna be locked in here. Because Judge Safey has this courtroom in the morning for other things or motions or whatever. If,
We rent some more space.
you can rent some more space in the judge's chamber, so you can just follow my court reporter down there to the second floor, we'll let you in, take care of it.
Just for yourself in the morning.
What do you want to take with you?
Whatever you need me to carry, get back there.
Okay?
Yeah, you got me.
Sure.
Yeah. What's that? Okay.
We think we're gonna bring down the box, put it in there.
Sure. Yeah.
You're not gonna have an opportunity to see anything, or video anything, or picture anything, photographs anything, because he's got to get out of here.
Where's the box of clothes? It's back, okay, I see it.
No, what I do is, I got this box, if you want to put some stuff in there, and the box is yours.
The shoes, all we really need is the shoes, not the whole gate. But we really need the shoes. Leave that to the side, that's easy.
It's on the side of the email?